Madam President, fellow Toastmasters, people in government and banking alike are confused by quantitative easing. In the next few minutes, I hope to make you less confused than they are. Let's start with the basics. Quantitative is to do with the money supply, how much money there is. Easing describes the addition of. Interest rates are used to control the economy. Cutting interest rates encourages spending, discourages saving. When interest rates can't go any lower, the only option to boost the economy is to create more money. When the government is running short of cash, they borrow money. They do this by issuing bonds, also known as gilts or gilt-edged securities, so called because the original paper certificates had a gilded edge. The bonds will usually have a maturity date, although this might be variable, 2025 to 2035, and a fixed interest rate applied to the original value of the gilt, say for example 4% per year. These bonds can be traded on the markets, so you might have paid £1 for your bond, but if interest rates rise and 4% is no longer attractive, you might sell it for 50p. Bonds are just debt notes and can also be issued by local authorities or large corporations. Quantitative easing is where the government buys its own bonds back with money it's just invented. It usually buys the bonds from the banks, which gives the banks money to lend, or save, or spend. Japan invented quantitative easing in 2001, but others have eagerly taken it up. In the UK, quantitative easing was introduced in 2009. We intended to inject £50 billion into the economy. Then this was doubled again, and almost doubled again to £375 billion. The Bank of England now owns 1/3 of all UK government bonds. The UK's national debt, the amount of money the government owes, has doubled since 2008. By 2016, it's expected to exceed national income, the amount the country earns. There are only a dozen countries in the world with debt exceeding income. They include Japan, with a phenomenal debt-to-income ratio of 238%. Remember them, the first country to use quantitative easing. And 4 Eurozone countries, Greece, Italy, Portugal and Ireland. What are the effects of quantitative easing? The Bank of England buying bonds raises their price because demand is higher, which lowers their yield. If you pay £1 for a 4% bond, you get 4p per year. If the value of that bond in the market rises over time to £2 and you buy at that price, you still get 4p, but it's now only 2% of your investment. So interest rates are kept artificially low, encouraging spending, discouraging saving. The stock market rises, helping the rich and the banks. Currency weakens, which helps our exporters and makes imports more expensive. Oil prices and commodity prices are kept high. However, there's also a huge effect on pensions. Pension yields are calculated on the assumption that all pension assets are invested in bonds. In our example, the yield on bonds has dropped from 4% to 2%. Final salary pensions can't be adjusted to take this into account. They're based on the employee's final salary. This creates a deficit which employers have to pay. If you aren't in a final salary scheme, you will, until recently, have had to buy an annuity when you retire. These give a fixed income for life based on interest rates. Annuities are now very unattractive. So how do we get out of this mess? Amazingly, there is no proper exit strategy. It's hoped that investors might buy back the bonds in the future. Another possible solution is to create enough inflation to erode our debts. 3% inflation over 10 years halves the value of a currency. None of these scenarios is very enticing. So to summarise, quantitative easing is a short-term solution with long-term consequences. Buying back your own debt with money that doesn't exist doesn't sound like a good strategy to me. Let's hope our children enjoy the future and we enjoy our retirement.